Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Kalika and you're gonna be even more scared of Karens after watching this video. My mum won't vaccinate me, but I can't bring myself to speak up. My mum is anti-vax. She believes in the homeopathic and alternative medicine. I'm not even 16 and I feel like I already had a midlife crisis. For most of my life, I have always been a really sick kid. Being on and off different colds or flus going around, or even getting some life-threatening things like croup a couple of times. Not to mention I have some mental disorders like depression and anxiety. My mum pushed these morals on me when I was younger, like how fluoride was bad, and it's bad the schools are trying to make me vaccinate you. And for a long time I believed it. Until recently I looked around the internet to explain why I'm so sick even though my mum says I'm not. Now I know it was all a big ugly lie. I've done research and compiled facts and information to prove her wrong. But I don't know how to approach her. My dad doesn't believe in this stuff too, but he says nothing to mum because of fear. I love my mum, but I hate her for putting me through this easily preventable outcome. I don't want my parents to fight about it. I just want to be healthy enough to play sports or hang out with people without the fear of getting them sick. Up until recently, I had to get a root canal on one of my upper teeth. The decay was so bad it touched the nerve and I was in so much pain. I begged my mum to go to the hospital or a dentist, but she still used the snake oils and natural things. It took nights without sleep and screaming to finally get a checkup. It was so bad that I had to miss school and get the root canal the very next day. My mum, realising now she can't pay $1,000 for each tooth that decays, finally let me use normal toothpaste. The pain went away and my teeth are doing better. But the lengths I went to finally use something other than wet baking soda was awful. I've recently been trying to egg her on about particular things without flat out saying it. I found out she believed I had autism when I was younger, not diagnosed by a doctor, and she cured me of it with alternative medicine. I had to try so hard not to laugh or cry. She also says the doctors are greedy and only want money, so there's no point in going for checkups. I've been begging to go for a doctor for a long time. I have this weird cough that I've had for a year and it sounds like a duck being choked. And I can run about a second without feeling like I'm dying. Whenever I talk about this, she either tells me I'm fine or never answers about going to see a doctor. I need help. I don't know how to talk to her and I'm tired of being sick. Please tell me any suggestions. Also, I live in a state that still needs parental consent to get vaccinated. I think his best bet with this is that because his dad doesn't believe it is to maybe go to him about this stuff. Maybe the dad can get him vaccinated without the mum knowing. And maybe visit the doctor. Like, seriously. At what point does this become neglect? Or are we already there? My friend's father told on me, 36 male, after I refused a $250 prostitute. TLDR, my very evangelical friend's father took me halfway around the world to a foreign country, tried to get me to pay him $250 for a hooker, then called my mother, I'm in my mid-30s, to tell on me. I found InsaneParents and typed this to get it off my chest, but let me know if this is in the wrong place. I'm now in my mid-30s, but in high school my friends and I were extremely religious. We started our own youth group, did churchy things, and were basically good, God-fearing kids. His father is Indonesian, but his mother is from Minnesota, and my friends look extremely white. My friend has little knowledge of his Indonesian heritage, so after we graduated, we made plans to go to Indonesia. Unfortunately, he got married right after graduation, so we put those plans to travel on hold. I could put in a bunch of crazy evangelical religious stuff here. He started dating a girl sophomore year, so his parents removed him from school to homeschool. Usual crazy religious shenanigans. But that's all in the past. It's what recently happened that frustrated me. 18 years after high school, my friend is divorcing his extremely religious wife, and we finally decide to take that trip to Indonesia. His father, who we would call Silly, is trying to start an Indonesian tourism company, so we ask him for suggestions. Silly offers to take us on a tour of Indonesia for the low price of $3,500, plus flight cost for a 10-day trip. $3,500 is enough to live like a king for 3 months in Indonesia. Some of the high-end search for orangutans in the middle of the wilderness with your own personal guide tours might cost that much, but not the relatively humdrum stuff that we were doing. And the itinerary had none of that stuff I wanted to do. In fact, it looked like it was the bare minimum needed to be called a tour with very little Indonesia in it. We negotiate. It's clear Silly wants to charge expensive New York prices for third world Indonesian activities. I'm not really liking this plan, but I do want to hang out with my friend and I already bought my ticket. We decide I'll spend a week with them doing their stuff at expensive prices and then I'll go on my own. So, about a week before the trip, Silly wants me to pay $120 for the hotel room for the first leg of the journey, which is 3 nights. No big deal, except he also sends me a Facebook message about getting girls for me. Again, my evangelical friend's father, who took my friend out of high school for dating a girl, offered me girls in Indonesia. I let him know that's why I wanted to go clubbing, something left off the itinerary. Silly calls me gay, says everyone else will be there for the girls and to not be a party pooper. I agree to not be a party pooper, but truthfully, I'm a little bit grossed out. 50-plus-year-old men trying to get you girls seems just weird and inappropriate. Since I want to actually experience Indonesia, I decided to arrive a day earlier to do actual Indonesian stuff. And when I arrive at 11 PM, Silly isn't there at the airport, and he didn't get a hotel room. Silly basically wants me to wait at the airport all night and day until my friend arrives. Sigh. I let him know I'm getting my own hotel room, and Silly immediately changes his mind and agrees to pick me up. At 4 AM, I've finally been picked up at the airport and arrive at his sister's house. In my opinion, Silly didn't want me to figure out just how cheap hotel rooms are in Indonesia. Knowing I'd be arriving before everyone and thinking I'd be getting a full night's sleep, I made plans to go to the waterfall that day with some locals. Silly doesn't want to drive me to the meeting place, so I get a Gojek, an Indonesian Uber, hang out with the locals and have a bunch of fun, despite being exhausted, and get a Gojek to the now rented hotel room. The hotel had the same name as a fancy expensive hotel, and Silly had implied that we were staying at expensive hotels, hence the relatively high prices per night. Only, it was a smaller and not as fancy hotel with a very similar name. The rooms cost $25 a night, regular price for a budget Indonesian hotels, and I was sharing my room with Silly. Okay, no big deal. I had expected either my own room at a small hotel or sharing a suite at a nice one, but I was there to hang out with my friend. We talk a bit and I discover a few things. Silly is racist. Growing up with him, I didn't know he was racist because Silly is perfectly fine with American races. He's fine with black people, Latinos, etc. No, Silly is racist to other Indonesians. Indonesia consists of many islands, each with its own culture and people, and as far as he spoke, every culture other than his own was bad. Trying to change the subject from why the Sulawesi were all the troublemakers, I noticed my friend's niece as his phone wallpaper and asked about the cutie on his phone. He interpreted cutie as his lady friend and then started to speak about all the girls he was betting. Again, my friend's 50-plus old evangelical father was telling me about his sexual conquests. Yuck. He mentions that he has a girl for me the following day for $30 or so. I let Silly know that I was exhausted, awake for 24+ hours by then, and also went on a hike to the waterfall. I go to sleep and he picks up my friend, on time, and another friend who's joining us. The next day, his father takes us to eat at Dunkin' Donuts, McDonald's, and a Japanese restaurant. That's right, I travelled to the other side of the world to eat at Dunkin' Donuts, McDonald's, and at a Japanese restaurant. Being Mexican, I had heard Indonesians had deliciously spicy foods and wanted to try some. Heck, part of the fun of travelling is sampling the local fare. Nope, we were having Dunkin' Donuts, McDonald's, and then a fancy Japanese place. Sigh. We spend the day at Little Indonesia, a theme park and museum where it's clear that Silly knows very little about Indonesian culture. He tries to tell us all about the Indonesian exhibits we encounter, but the curator keeps on correcting him. As we leave, he mutters under his breath, race of Indonesian curator, acting like they know what they're talking about. That night, he decides to take us up to a rooftop bar. As far as rooftop bars go, it was nice, but after we sat down he told us that he was charging us $400 per person. Bottle service did cost 4 million Indonesian rupiah, but that's roughly $300 American for the bottle, not $400 per person. Truthfully, I wouldn't have minded splitting the bottle service at the club, but not at a bar where there were plenty of seats, and also not for $400 per person. At that price, every single one of us should have gotten our own bottle and a half. He also mixed us a nasty drink. Usually, bottle service alcohol tastes good, but he gave us something that tasted horrible. His lady friend then arrived with 3 young girls, and he proudly announced that he was only charging us $250 for the girls to go back to our hotel room. I did not take this very well. I live in one of the most expensive cities in the United States, and $400 to go to a rooftop bar is insane in America, let alone a third world country like Indonesia. $400 for bad alcohol is insane. $250 to take a girl back to your place is insane, especially when you're sharing a room. I let Silly know I was leaving, and he said he'd only charge me $100 instead of $250 for the girl. As I was leaving, Silly reminded me that I hadn't paid for the night's hotel room yet. Yes, he was going to charge me another $120 to share a room with him in a $25 hotel. As I left, Silly called me gay, pointed out that I didn't speak Indonesian and that I wouldn't be able to figure out stuff on my own and that I'd be raped, murdered or killed. Instead, I got my own hotel room and had a perfectly fine vacation. Later on I learned that somehow my friend had spent $1,200 that night. I doubt my friend spent more than a few $100, but his father certainly charged him that much. I was by myself the rest of the trip, had fun, made a few friends, and that would be the end of the story. Except, about a week later, I get a call from my mother. Apparently Silly had called her and told on me. That's right, Silly had told on a fully grown adult despite me not doing anything wrong. I don't want anyone to think I'm a prude. Part of the fun of travelling is sampling the locals and fellow travellers, but all of my friend's family is deeply evangelical Christian. My friend and I started our own youth group and his parents are the ones that provided the songbooks. I remember staying the night and they'd have a Bible reading right before bed. When my friend started dating a girl in high school, he was removed from school so nothing untoward would happen. Harry Potter wasn't allowed because of magic. In high school, dating wasn't allowed and making out was being a slut. And now, the same person that would have thrown a conniption at seeing me hug a girl in high school is trying to charge me $250, no $30, no $100, for a prostitute. Silly was also taking advantage of his own son and me. Some upcharge is expected, the tour guide needs to make a living, but $1,200 for a $300 bottle service? That's a 400% markup. $120 for a $25 room that I share? $1,250? That's a 1000% markup. I go out in expensive cities like New York, DC, etc. and never pay $1,200 a night on entertainment as my friend did in a third world country like Indonesia. This has completely changed how I look at my friend's family. Okay, so I completely agree that trying to sell girls is gross when you're just trying to enjoy your holiday, especially when it's your friend's dad trying to push them on you. But I'm willing to bet that it was probably the mother who was the religious parent. Okay, so that's all for r/InsaneParents. I really hope you did enjoy it. As always, if you do want to see more content like this, then please do subscribe. My Twitter, Discord and Patreon links are in the description, and any support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!